How's it going? Welcome back to another great video with your host, The Savior, and today I am so goddamn excited just to be talking about the Elder Scrolls again. Oblivion, it's here. Now, you might have seen tons and tons of gamer YouTubers milking that content. Remember, if you're not consuming content and quality products on a daily basis, then you have failed our modern society, so shame on you. Okay, for not consuming more content, especially my content. How dare you? Oh, yes. Let us praise and rejoice in the fact that Oblivion Remake is legit. The Oblivion Remake is actually happening, and we can all once again get on our knees, look up at the wonderful glowing goddess before us, Todd Howard, and open our mouths wide to receive his wonder and his gift.
That most of you came here for one thing.
Todd Howard!
Thank you. It's almost infinitely playable, all of the mods and everything like that. This is a game we need to design and people will play for a decade at least. At least.
No, in all seriousness, I'm actually a Bethesda fan. Now, I'm not a fanboy because I believe tribalism is stupid in any format, especially when it comes to dangerous, actual ideologies and politics, but just completely stupid when it comes to things like hobbies, like gaming. So I enjoy Bethesda games, but I'm not a Bethesda fanboy. I don't think everything that they make are the best thing in the world and they can do no wrong. In fact, modern Bethesda to me has completely fallen off the wagon. But I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I don't like Fallout 3. I'm a huge Fallout 3 lover. I absolutely loved Elder Scrolls. And I absolutely love the Elder Scrolls series as well. And basically all of their games up until, Fallout 4. And even that I'm actually enjoying now thanks to mods. So I do love Bethesda games, okay? And I think most of you out there actually love Bethesda games. Or at least you remember why you used to love Bethesda games. How they made you feel when you were a teenager or a young kid, okay? Now, I played Oblivion back when I was a teen. Even though it was actually before my time, I enjoyed Skyrim so much I went back and I played Oblivion. But it didn't quite hit it for me because after coming from Skyrim back to Oblivion, you can imagine that it took some growing pains.
I want more. And I know I shouldn't.
So today I'm going to give you my Oblivion 2025 review, my Oblivion in 2025 retrospective review, looking back at this game, analyzing it, and towards the end of the video, we will discuss the Oblivion Remake. Now, the Oblivion Remake is happening. It's actually going to come out very shortly. That's what made me want to do this Oblivion 2025 review. So basically you can count this as an Oblivion Remake review because a lot of people are going to be introduced to Oblivion for the first time. And fundamentally, what I want to do with this video is set expectations because I've seen it go out of hand before time and time again with the gaming industry, with the gaming community, and I don't want to kill your buzz, okay? If you're excited for the Oblivion Remake, that's great, but I have to set some actual objective, based in reality expectations because I think a lot of people are getting carried away with what this remake actually is. And after, analyzing the screenshots, as you can see here, yes, it's a big graphical, jump up. It's a big graphical fidelity leap compared to the original. But something that I've noticed, okay, is the actual objects themselves, the placements of the objects, all of that kind of stuff. They've added a few extra things to make it feel lived in, but they are literally going in and just recreating the assets.
Okay, now you have my attention.
But as you can see right here, look at the trees in the background and then look at the new remake version. It's still super scattered, okay? It doesn't look like a proper forest like we would get even in games like Skyrim or Dragon's Dogma 2. It is retouching these assets, bringing them greater fidelity, adding some gameplay tweaks, but people are getting carried away. This is a remake, okay? This is a graphical remake. It's not redefining the actual game itself. So if people aren't ready for the actual core game themselves and they're getting carried away with nostalgia because this is a game that they used to love, but they haven't touched it in years, and if they go back and play it now, they might be surprised that, okay, it doesn't really hold up anymore. Or for new people who are excited to try out a new Elder Scrolls game, this is not that, okay? There's a reason that Bethesda is shadow dropping this and not doing a full release cycle. So today I'm going to give you my Oblivion 2025 review, look at the actual core game itself and what the remake actually does different, okay? So, if you're new here, make sure that you go down below and subscribe. It would be such an honor to have you join my community. We are the Wise One community, okay? We are all about analyzing video games, things that I care about, and I hope, you guys share the same passion as I do. And we look at games with an analytical lens, objectively and fairly, clear-mindedly as much as possible. I tell you if I have personal biases or not, so if that sounds different to you or unique, then make sure you subscribe to become a Wise One today and think for yourself, okay? Don't fall into tribal mentality, that is what I try and destroy. If you love video essays, yearly reviews, early reviews, and philosophical content, I cover all of those subjects on this channel. Check out my music on Spotify as well if you love cyberpunk music, and consider subscribing, becoming one of us. It would mean a great deal to me. This community literally means everything to me. I put my heart and soul into this, trying to go full time. And it just means absolutely everything, and it's great seeing this channel continue to grow, so thank you so much. And I hope you do watch the video until the end, because I will be touching on the remake and my opinions and what actually it changes, the actual facts, instead of a lot of people are regurgitating the same information. So I hope your retention can manage that. I would appreciate it. Grab yourself a nice cup of tea, a coffee, whatever it is, and get in your comfy chair. Now, I always find, as a production machine of content, quality content, that I need relaxation. I need a chair that supports me and my wonderful wisdom, okay? So sit back and relax, grab yourself a snack, like I said. But if you're not feeling toasty, if you're not feeling comfortable, well, I might have something to help you, thanks to today's sponsor, Flexispot. Thanks to Flexispot for sponsoring the video. How's it going, my Wise Ones? Today I want to share something super awesome with you guys. So recently I found this perfect chair and I decided to give it to my dad because he's been working on his new book recently, and that's a lot of sitting down, a lot of work hours. I personally am going to get one of these for my own setup because when I do long hours of editing or music production, this is exactly what I'm looking for. But this Flexispot chair is just perfect because the design is really sleek and it fits into any workspace, I think. And what's awesome about it is just everything is adjustable, from the headrest to the arms. Everything is adjustable to fit your needs. And I really like the lumbar support, like I said, because that just, is the biggest thing when you are sitting in an office chair for a long time. So it's perfect for up-and-coming content creators, writers, or if you are just someone who does homework and you're looking for a new office chair, go down into the pinned comments and the description and grab yourself this Flexispot chair, because honestly, it's very awesome and it's super, super comfy. So let's hear what my dad has to say about the chair. And thanks again, Flexispot, for sponsoring the video. And yeah, it's just been an absolute game changer for my dad. And yeah, I'm really happy that he likes it, so.
Hi, I'm here to show you this great chair that's been given to me by my son, the Saviour, and I'm just going to demonstrate some of the features that it has. Quite easy to assemble, in fact I would say very easy to assemble. Take a seat and just show you a few of the features that this chair possesses. You can move your armrests backwards and forwards. It's great if you're trying to change a position, so you imagine I've got a typewriter in front of me there, banging away. I'm just going to show you the headrest feature, which can be really quite useful. There you go. Up and down, like so. Go higher or lower, you just simply reach for these paddles at the back. Thanks, son. Hope we get years of good use out of this chair. It's great.
So, Oblivion in 2025, does it still hold up? Is the game actually playable in 2025? Okay, let's find out. And I do hope you enjoy this Oblivion 2025 review. Please give it a like if you do, and sound off in the comments, because that's the whole reason I'm doing this, that I've literally dedicated my entire existence to YouTube. I don't think people realize, if you're in this, I don't think people realize that if you're trying to commit to YouTube, you don't have a life, okay? So it's very difficult to balance things out. So I really do appreciate seeing you guys comment and interact with the community. That's the whole reason I'm doing this, because I want to build a community. I love OG YouTube. Now, I'm 28 years old, and I kind of grew up in the golden peak of gaming, I guess you could say. You know, the Xbox 360 to Xbox to Xbox 360, PS2 to PS3, you know, back when lots of quality games were releasing and it didn't take them 10,000 years to release in. Okay, so I've played my fair share of the Elder Scrolls, but a lot of people are coming from, you know, even Morrowind and stuff like that, which I've never actually played myself. But the reason why people love Oblivion, and the reason it still holds up in 2025 to a degree, is simply because it bridges the gap between Morrowind and something like Skyrim. But I do think a lot of people have nostalgia lenses on with this game, you know, complete just, you know, like, they've been blindsided by nostalgia, because this isn't a super deep RPG. When you look at new RPG games coming out today, like Baldur's Gate 3 or something like that, you know, it's actually quite light still on the RPG scale. Yes, it's much deeper in some areas than Skyrim, and I really love some things you can do in Oblivion. For example, spell crafting. That's something so awesome, where you can actually create your own unique spells. But the dialogue system is something that's actually lacking a lot compared to maybe some of the newer Bethesda titles, because a lot of the dialogue in this game isn't so much a conversation, isn't so much your character speaking to another character like you would in a normal conversation. It's more about asking questions, gathering information, not so much, you know, flavor text to fill out your particular character and what kind of person you are within the world of Oblivion. And I think a lot of people have kind of forgot that, and they always dog on Bethesda for their, you know, like, simplified conversation system, which I absolutely hate, by the way. I agree with you guys in Fallout 4 and stuff like that. I think it's terrible. I wish, you know, we would get the same quality of game, but with the dialogue system of New Vegas. But, you know, this is modern Bethesda. But even back then, my point is that Oblivion was quite simplistic with its dialogue choices, okay? It would be, you know, a couple of words, and you would still have to kind of do a lot of guesswork as to what is being said. When you look at this gameplay, a horse jankily humping the mountain to try and get up it. I mean, that is Bethesda. That is classic Bethesda. And a lot of people have, you know, love for that. A lot of people have, you know, this warm, fuzzy feeling, okay? If you're anything like me and you're a weirdo, you like that shit, okay? It's got a charm to it. But when you're actually playing, you know, a high quality, you know, an actual polished AAA game today, and they do exist, even though it's quite difficult for AAA games to make good games these days, without, you know, bloating it completely with all kinds of modern day bullshit, you know, to try and squeeze as much money as possible. They do still exist, okay? Baldur's Gate 3 is a prime example. When you go back to something like this, it doesn't feel like, it doesn't fill you with that same sense of, this is, you know, this is like a charming factor to this game. It actually feels very outdated and very unimmersive, okay? And like I said, Oblivion to its core is a great game, but it was made by an older Bethesda team back then, when they had a much smaller team.
It's almost infinitely playable.
This is good in different areas and bad in other areas. For example, the one thing I feel modern day Bethesda has lacked is a cohesive creative vision for their games. Starfield is a prime example of that creative vision being lost, because it's spread over many different people, and you know, it's a very big game doing procedural stuff, all that kind of things. But Oblivion, the world itself, felt very tactile, very much connected and cohesive creatively because it was a smaller team working together. There are, of course, huge downsides to that. The fact that the game is known for its jankiness, that it's known for its bugginess, okay? And it's limited in its potential because of that. For example, the voice acting. I think we all know the great Oblivion meme of, the voice actor literally breaking the fourth dimension and, having this oopsie moment.
Spriggans, nature's guardians, my foot. Mean things, they'll curse you, or they might call a bear to tear you apart. Spriggans, nature's guardians, my foot. Mean things, they'll curse you, or they might call a bear to tear you apart.
What do you want, you? What do you want, you rat?
I heard that thieves broke into the Arcane University, the Imperial Legion compound, and the temple all on the same night. Wait a minute, let me do that one again.
But it goes beyond that because they're using the same cast over and over again because they just didn't have the resources back then to have, a wide variation in voice dialogue and stuff like that. That's a big problem with playing Oblivion in 2025 today. So it's the lack of, immersive factors that draw you out of the experience. All of the NPCs sounding exactly the same, having the same voice lines, they all look pretty much the same. The Radiant AI that was, a boasting right back then is now laughable because, yes, they do have day and night cycles which make the world feel more believable, but their routines are nonsensical. Their actions make zero sense. I mean, we've all seen Oblivion memes where they are reacting to their comrades dying in the most hilarious ways. That's because the AI fundamentally is very simplistic, and I won't say that modern day gaming AI is much better, to be honest, which is a very sad thing, because you would think that would improve as AI is taking over the world, which I hate, but it doesn't seem to be. But the Radiant AI in Oblivion, made sense on paper, but in reality, it's a complete goddamn shit show because you get all of these NPCs reacting with each other without any logical rationality to the world and how people actually talk in real life. So it just comes across as ridiculous, which is hilarious, but when you're playing a game and you're trying to get immersed in this fantasy world, of course that draws you out of it. The same thing with the combat in 2025. Oblivion does not hold up very good, okay? The melee combat wasn't even that great in Skyrim, I believe, and in Oblivion it's even worse because it's so floaty. It doesn't ever feel like you're hitting anything. It feels like you're hitting a goddamn piece of paper, okay? It just doesn't feel good, okay? Now, when I say these things, okay, it does not mean Oblivion is a bad game. Oblivion is a fantastic game because it's a product of its time. When it first came out, it was a fantastic game. Today, it is dated, and that's not, shocking. That's just what happens with technology, okay? But the creative vision of Oblivion, that's what makes this game special. That's why it still holds up in many aspects, because of the world, because of the lore, because of the quest designs. I think Oblivion has some of the best Bethesda quests in all of their games because they were creative back then. They took risk. It wasn't fetch quests. You would have unique situations like a murder mystery, like joining these different factions and, groups, and they would all have their own different, variation of quests that you go through. The Dark Brotherhood questline in Oblivion was absolutely fantastic. The, Mage Guild, all of this stuff, almost felt like it was kind of a step down in Skyrim in some aspects because there was such unique quests to it, Because the quests themselves were creative, they actually took risks. They weren't just, go there, clear out a bunch of enemies, you're gonna get ambushed, the same kind of rinse and repeat stuff. It was actually interesting scenarios that you would have to navigate yourself. That's what made it a good RPG, when you could, actually roleplay as one of these factions.
I want more. And I know I shouldn't.
And that brings me on to my next point with why Oblivion in 2025 still does hold up in many areas. And that is the world itself, okay? The atmosphere, the tone, the art style, okay? These are all very important things within gaming because what makes a game special is it's an interactive art form, okay? So if the art that you're consuming doesn't have any essence to it, if it doesn't move you at all, if it doesn't make you feel anything, okay, like most AI shit today, then it's not worth, then it's not going to stand the test of time. But Oblivion stands the test of time simply because of that. The music is so special and it still holds up to this day. Music is a huge impact in gaming. I've actually worked on a few indie games creating soundtracks for them, and a big reason as to what makes a good game good is the music, I believe. The connected world of Oblivion as well is fantastic, from its different variations in the towns and landscapes, but again, it's limited back then. It all feels very similar because they could only reuse the same assets over and over again, and that was a big problem with Oblivion and the dungeons, especially if you go back and play Oblivion in 2025. That's a huge thing that you're going to notice, okay? Oblivion captures that special medieval fantasy where, you meet these bombastic, out-of-the-world fantasy characters, okay? That's what's special about Oblivion. It's not trying to be, realistic or lived-in fantasy world where it's all dark and gritty and immersive like The Witcher 3 or something like that. Oblivion, taps into that fantastical element of fantasy. And that's what's so special about this, because we don't get many high fantasy games that do it so lovingly and so well. But Oblivion does that because all of the characters that you meet are interesting and they have something unique to say to the player. And then the RPG elements on top of Oblivion, like the persuasion mechanic. Even though it limits your room for expression of your character, the RPG mechanics to build up your character, like the actual stats and RPG stuff that affects the gameplay, is so big. But the problem with Oblivion in 2025 is it feels stitched together, okay? And you could say that with any Bethesda game, but especially back then when the technology was limiting, when even just traveling across the landscape, it would actually have to have loading screens in it because it just didn't load, smoothly on consoles and stuff like that. So, it's a byproduct. Oblivion is a byproduct of its time, but it doesn't mean that the core of Oblivion is bad. In fact, it's very special, and it goes down to the writing, it goes down to the quest design, the RPG mechanics that are very old school that actually allow you to build your own unique character. But it does have limiting factors in 2025, like the AI being completely broken, the fact that the combat feels stiff as hell and is not very fun or responsive, the dialogue system feeling limiting compared to big open world RPG games that come out today that allow you to have much more freedom of choice and expression. Fallout New Vegas being a prime example, Baldur's Gate 3 being a prime example. When it tries to pull you in so much, but the actual gameplay design of the game world itself actually does the opposite and makes it feel unimmersive. That's the problem with Oblivion in 2025, and that brings me on to my point that I want to make with the Oblivion remake. I do hope you enjoyed the Oblivion 2025 review. Let me know again your thoughts on Oblivion. I do think it's a fantastic game, but it is certainly showing its age, and this is why I am slightly concerned about people's expectation for the Oblivion remake, which I'm going to discuss now, and we're actually going to discuss what this actually adds to the game. And I just have to say that the reason why Oblivion still stands the test of time to this day is simply because not many game worlds capture that essence of, freedom. You go out, you have this giant open world, and it actually feels like this world is alive. Even with its broken AI and, the things that make it feel unimmersive today, it still has that atmosphere, that magic, that illusion to it that a lot of modern day games can't replicate. And that's down to different, perspectives, of course. But for example, I never feel that playing a Ubisoft open world game. It just never hits because it feels artificial. It's artificiality in modern day game design that old Bethesda titles still have, and you can say what you want about them, but I personally feel that anytime I boot up Skyrim, Oblivion, Fallout, and it's a special feeling. Not many games can do that. It gives you the sense of, okay, I can go into this world, I can be who I want to be, I can create my own character, and I'm going to eat interesting characters, you know, a proper almost D&D style adventure where, you know, I create my own destiny and I become the person I want to be in this world. That's what's special about these games, and it still holds up to this day in my opinion. And also, you can't deny the fact that everything having physics makes the world feel grounded, because we take it, you know, we take it for granted that our universe, that our reality has physics. Yes, this is a Dark Souls mushroom, but not many games pull that off realistically, but Bethesda have always been good at making everything interactable, and that's just another thing that takes it, you know, a long way, in my opinion. Okay, so now let's get down to the Oblivion Remake review comparison points that I want to make, okay? Before everyone loses their mind as this game is about to shadow drop, let me just say that if you don't love core Oblivion, you're probably not gonna like the remake, because yes, what I do believe that they're adding is graphical fidelity. That will only take a game so far, and that's what I wanted to highlight in today's video, in this Oblivion 2025 review. A prime example, okay, is you could take, you know, like a narcissistic, psychopathic person who looks like Jabba the Hutt, okay, let's just say that. And they're disgusting to be around, they're disgusting to look at, okay? Then you could give them a lot of plastic surgery and make them into a nice little K-pop idol or something like that, but it doesn't change the fundamental core of their being, their morality, who they are as a person, okay? The same thing can be said for Oblivion, the same thing can be said for any remake or remaster. And what I have seen so far is it's not fundamentally changing the game. All of the assets are actually in the exact same location for the most part. They are adding some stuff, but for the most part, they are literally just recreating the same assets and making them look graphically impressive. It reminds me a lot of Fable Anniversary, not a comparison that many people are making, but honestly, this to me looks heavily inspired by something like that. You know, where it's literally exactly the same core experience with a few tweaks like controls and stuff like that, but then it's just a graphical facelift, like with Fable Anniversary. I was very hopeful that we're going to see lots of variation in the foliage, that the forests are going to be a lot more thicker, a lot more lived in, because that, like I said, pulls you out of the experience of Oblivion today, because it feels unimmersive with how many things are kind of barren and just like there isn't enough variation in the landscapes and stuff like that for them to truly feel unique. But it looks to me that this is truly a graphical facelift, okay? A better lighting system, a day and night cycle that actually impacts lighting, volumetric lighting, you know, the god rays coming through the trees and stuff like that. It's going to have all of that quality of life stuff. A little bit more refined combat, you know, it's taking some inspiration from the Soul series. You might have heard that before, which sounds like it's going to actually be true. You know, maybe more weighty melee combat, better archery and stuff like that. But the core of this game, I personally think, is fundamentally going to be the same. The same conversation system. The movement of this game is still going to feel rather janky, I believe, and all the core elements that make Oblivion Oblivion, and not in the good aspects, but the stuff that pulls you out of the experience, that make this world feel, you know, just a little bit light compared to a lot of newer games where it feels kind of barren and not as lived in compared to some games. That's all going to remain true in the remake, and I just want to set that expectation because I see so many people losing their minds thinking that this is going to be a complete, you know, rebuilding of Oblivion, that everything is going to feel modern, that it's going to move and play like Starfield, okay? I don't think that's going to be the case. I think this is going to be a graphical facelift, okay? And I just want to prepare for that. If I'm wrong and I'm pleasantly surprised, then, you know, that's great. I hope I am wrong. I hope they have changed the conversation systems, the facial animations, the way NPCs interact with each other, combat actually feeling good, and variation within the world. But to me, this just looks like a graphical facelift, and I see so many people setting their expectations way too high for this, and they're only going to be met with disappointment, and that's, you know, based on your perception. So I just urge people to go in with the right expectation, and then if you're pleasantly surprised, then that's a bonus, isn't it? I'm not going to say expect the worst case scenario and then you'll always be happy. That's not really a good way to live. but I do think you have to have realistic expectations for this game in particular, and the fact that Bethesda are shadow dropping it, that it's going to fundamentally have the core inside of Oblivion. And a lot of people who've never touched Oblivion, they don't truly understand what that means. And for old school fans, I think you need to realistically understand what is nostalgia, because there's plenty of games that I love but I realize are nostalgia to a degree. So that's what I wanted to make, that's the point I wanted to make with this video. Let me know what you think of the Oblivion remake and Oblivion in 2025. I'll be seeing you in the next video. Have a great day. Peace out.
I want more. And I know I shouldn't.
I was born 87 years ago. For 65 years, I've ruled as Tamriel's emperor. But for all these years, I've never been the ruler of my own dreams. I have seen the gates of Oblivion, beyond which no waking eye may see. Behold, in darkness, a doom sweeps the land. This is the 27th of last seed, the year of Akatosh 433. These are the closing days of the third era and the final hours of my life.